Hi, welcome to Weirder Futures, where we talk about ideas for a changing planet and how we can use them in our everyday lives. Today it's degrowth, a big set of theories and policies for prioritizing the well-being of people and the planet over endless and unsustainable economic growth. In this video, I'm going to give a quick overview of degrowth's big ideas. If you'd like to see more videos like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and make sure to set alerts so you know when new videos are released. So, degrowth. When I first heard that word a few years ago, I was intrigued. The idea made a certain amount of intuitive sense. Most of us now know that we can't just keep using resources unchecked forever without dire consequences. If we collectively need to consume less in order to maintain a livable planet, how can we also keep growing corporate production and profits at the same time? Full disclosure, I'm not an economist, not even close, but I've been trying to educate myself on degrowth theory and how it might be able to help us get out of the ecological mess we're in. This research has helped me to feel more solutions-oriented instead of always being buried in climate anxiety-induced gloom. So in this video, I'm going to run through the high points of current degrowth theory so that you too can have some talking points, action items, and concepts to face the world with. Most of the info in this video comes from the excellent book, The Future is Degrowth, A Guide to a World Beyond Capitalism. The book breaks degrowth theory into two main buckets. 1. Critiques of economic growth, and 2. Actions and policies that can help us prioritize people and planet over growth. So this video will also follow that structure. If you want to skip straight to the action items, no shade, please do it. You'll find the timestamp in the description below. Critiques. Ecological critique. Infinite growth is not possible on a finite planet. Full stop. As gross domestic product, or GDP, grows, so too does a country's material consumption footprint. Economic growth in its current form is just not sustainable. Critique of capitalism. Economic growth can be seen as the consequence of the capitalist compulsion to make a profit. A key idea here, the expansion of capital is dependent on ever-increasing appropriation and colonization of land, of people, of nature to feed as raw resources into the production machine. Both profits and growth must have limits in a finite system. Feminist critique. A capitalist society geared towards growth and productivity is inherently patriarchal because it ignores and devalues the essential work of care and reproduction. This work is primarily carried out by women, and primarily by women of color. Reproductive work includes all activities that serve the maintenance and well-being of people. This can range from raising children and accompanying the elderly, to cooking, housework, gardening, and even subsistence farming. But our current growth-oriented economic system does not even really acknowledge these essential jobs of caring. Socioeconomic critique. For most of the 20th century, we've collectively assumed that economic growth meant that people's lives were also getting better. But theorists are now calling that assumption into question, showing that continued economic growth in the global north no longer improves quality of life. In fact, a growing body of studies show that there's a threshold for both personal income and national prosperity, beyond which quality of life does not improve. So the push towards economic growth by international leaders is not really about improving quality of life, at least in the global north. The role of growth in achieving equity between the global north and the global south is a topic for another video, but it's something I encourage you to read about. Growth can be used strategically. Cultural critique. A big idea in the cultural critique arena is that wanting more and more is not human nature. Quoting my new favorite book, today's consumer societies of the global north did not come about because humans are insatiable, but were in fact deliberately constructed at the end of the post-war period. We have been socialized into a consumer society where the goal is to acquire more, be that possessions or even experiences through travel and media usage. But we must remember that this is not our natural state as humans. Critique of industrialism. Industrialism refers to the way society is structured around the mechanization of work. The main idea here is that productivity-enhancing technology should not automatically be considered desirable, especially when that technology is increasingly authoritarian, alienating, and even destructive to human and nature well-being. I'm sure we can all think of some examples of tech that fit that description. North-South critique. Growth must be examined from a global justice perspective. Since European expansion began in the 15th century, the growth of economies in the global north has relied on extraction from the global south. Growth in the global north is also built on externalities, pushing the negative side effects of growth, like pollution and exploitation of labor, disproportionately into the global south. Degrowth acknowledges that there is a debt owed for centuries of uneven growth and economic development. Degrowth actions and visions. So we've established that our current model of economic growth is built on the exploitation of nature, caregivers, the global south, people of color. Basically, it's terrible and unsustainable. So what do? How do we get from here to there? Something like a future we might actually want to live in on a planet that can sustain us all. Here's a quick list of inspiring actions, ideas, and policies for advocacy. There's a mix in here of things that can be enacted across the spectrum of individual, collective, and society. So, sufficiency, or creating ways to exist outside the consumer-driven capitalist market. This can mean the creation of local economies, do-it-yourself initiatives, and choosing voluntary simplicity, particularly for those of us in the global north. We need to demonstrate to those in power that we don't want to keep consuming and accumulating at feverish rates. We need to demonstrate a shift to slower, more local economies. This might look like supporting community agriculture in your area, joining local buy-nothing groups to take care of some of your household needs, and supporting local free stores and tool libraries so that people can borrow rather than buy special use items. Working to redefine the good life. It's not just about the accumulation of stuff, but also potentially an abundance of time, for example, and stable and meaningful relationships. How can we, on both a personal and a policy level, look for ways to increase our abundance of non-material things that make life worth living? At the government level, cities and municipalities could support infrastructure that increases quality of life. Parks, playgrounds, investments in arts and culture, for example. Creating and supporting now-topias, or experiments with alternative ways of living in the here and now. This can look like community-supported agriculture, sharing economies, and enlarging the public commons of land and resources. Think experiments in communal creation like Wikipedia to community gardens. Also more radical ideas like the complete abolition of personal property. Experimental now-topias help us all imagine a different world, one not dominated by the capitalist market. This relates to expanding the commons, shared resources managed outside of the money-based market for the benefit of all. We can look to the many, many traditional commons that have existed around the world for all of history, in which communities manage their own land, water, and so on. So supporting the commons can look like protecting wilderness and protecting land from private enclosure. A related notion is cooperatively organized forms of economic activity. Things like companies organized for the benefits of their members, not for unlimited economic growth. Policies should be put in place to expand the number and range of such enterprises. Look for ways to support increased self-determination for yourself and others, meaning the right to share in the shaping of social and economic conditions. Many of us feel that the world just is the way that it is, and that it's set up by powerful people and our job is just to play along. But there are other ways the world could be organized, and increasing the number of people contributing to those decisions will take us to different possible futures. Increasing self-determination might mean that institutions and structures that shape our lives, things like banks, educational institutions, transportation systems, and even economic policies, are designed to be transparent and open to questioning and critical review. More people need to be involved in decision-making around these structures. A related idea is the important role of local governments as agents of change. It is at the local municipal level that people can engage in face-to-face deliberation and make decisions that work for their specific location, not just some global ideal. So look for ways to get involved in local decision-making and support efforts to make local government more diverse, more transparent, and more impactful. It can often feel futile to agitate for change in local meetings, but sometimes just raising awareness of alternative ideas and possibilities is enough to get others thinking more critically and eventually moving in new directions. Support access to basic human needs, independent of rates of economic growth. How quickly the economy is growing or not should not dictate people's access to basic needs like housing, food, water, energy, education, healthcare. Not surprisingly, public access to such necessities typically lead to less environmental impacts than private or individual options. Think buses and trains instead of cars. Another key idea in making basic needs more accessible is universal basic income. That's a whole video in and of itself, but it's an idea worth learning more about. Rethink work. Phasing out work in industries that are unnecessary and even harmful. I'm looking at you, fossil fuels. Likely leading to less working hours for all. Reprioritizing reproductive and care work, and giving all workers, those who work outside the house as well as within it, more autonomy so that their lives are no longer controlled by the logic of capitalist accumulation. Instead, the guiding question of our working lives should be, what do people and the planet need, and how can I, through my work, fulfill those needs? Okay, so that was a sprint through a lot of ideas. But what spoke to you? What are you interested to learn more about? Comment below, let's keep the conversation going, and look for more videos where we dig into some of these solutions in more detail. Like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to our channel, hit the alert button so that you are in the know about new videos as they're released. And I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation.